Okay, part 2. Kevin Trudeau, natural cures. They don't want you to know about. This is chapter 4, and it's Who Are They? What Kevin was discussing in chapter 3 was people who make decisions about your health care, and he was saying that they're making decisions about your health care, but not in your best interest, in the best interest of money. And he was saying that all businesses are run, all of the big corporations are not run by keeping you healthy, but from profits. Your bottom line is profits. All businesses open up to make a profit. That's what they're open for. And he was just saying that if you came up with a natural remedy, people who come up with natural remedy, they either come up disappeared. They're offered millions and millions of dollars not to expose it, or disappeared or offered money. And I forget the third thing. But anyway, you can go back and listen to the video on Kevin Trudeau, Natural Cures, Chapter 3. It's all about the money, and you'll hear all of it. It gets a little more interesting once I get going. Okay, Chapter 4. Who are they? The thing that bugs me is that the people think that the FDA is protecting them. It isn't. What the FDA is doing and what the public thinks it's doing are as different as night and damn day. Drugs and surgery are being promoted as the only answer to prevention and cure of illness and disease. Natural cures are being suppressed and hidden from the public. So who is involved in this great lie? Let me expose the culprits. The pharmaceutical companies. These include not only the companies that sell drugs, but also the companies that research and develop drugs. It also includes all of the suppliers in the healthcare industry of such things as syringes, gauze, medical tape, tubing, plastic bottles, tongue depressors, and etc. There are over 10,000 individual pharmaceutical pieces of equipment that are used up and have to be resupplied on an ongoing basis. The profits are astronomical. The money this group of companies makes is mind-boggling. The food companies. You may ask, how do food companies get involved in healthcare? Well, there is a huge correlation between food and healthcare. I'll explain this in detail in a later chapter. Keep in mind, many food companies are directly or indirectly involved in the pharmaceutical industry through corporate ownership, affiliated business transactions, or by the officers and directors personally owning stock in the pharmaceutical companies. Food companies include the companies that actually manufacture and sell food directly to us, but also includes fast food restaurants and the suppliers of the food industry, the actual growers of the food. The trade associations. The number of trade associations involved in the healthcare industry is enormous. Keep in mind, these associations are not in place to eliminate disease or keep people healthy. When you read their charters, you find that they are there to promote disease in an effort to get additional funding and protect its members, which are the drug companies and doctors. These associations include Alzheimer's Association, American Academy of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology, American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, American Academy of Facial, Plastic, and Reconstructive Surgery, American Academy of Family Physicians, American Academy of Neurology, American Academy of Ophthalmology, American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons, American Academy of Otolaryngology, American Academy of Otolaryngology, American Academy of Pediatrics, American Academy of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation, American Association of Clinical Endocrinologists, American Association of Gynecological Laparoscopists, American Association for Geriatric Psychiatry, American Association of Immunologists, American Association of Neurological Surgeons, American Association for Respiratory Care, American Association for the Study of Liver Disease, American Board of Medical Specialties, American Board of Ophthalmology. That's a different one from the earlier one. One is American Academy of Ophthalmology, and this one is American Board of Ophthalmology. American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology, American Cancer Society, American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology, American College of Cardiology, American College of Chest Physicians, American College of Gastroenterology, American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, American College of Physicians, American College of Rheumatology, American College of Surgeons, American Congress of Rehabilitation Medicine, American Diabetes Association, American Gastroenterological Association, American Geriatrics Society, American Health Information Management and Association, American Heart Association, American Liver Foundation, American Lung Association, American Medical Association, American Women's Association, American Urological Association, American Neurotology Society, American Osteopathic Association, American Pharmaceutical Association, American Prostate Society, American Psychiatric Association, American Red Cross, American Rhinologic Society, American Society of Clinical Oncology, American Society for Gastrointestinal Endoscopy, American Society for Head and Neck Surgery, American Society of Pediatric Otolaryngology, American Society for Reproductive Medicine, American Urological Society, Association of Telehealth Service Providers, Catholic Health Association of the United States, the Endocrine Society, Gerontological Society of America, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of America, National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, National Association of Psychiatric Health Systems, National Board for Respiratory Care, National Stroke Association, Society of Gynecological Oncologists, Vestibular Disorders Association. This list is just the tip of the iceberg. These associations are incredibly powerful. Remember, these associations are not organized with a goal of curing and preventing disease or protecting the consumer. These associations do not represent you. They represent their members, the companies, the corporations, and the people that are making the money. Associations such as the American Medical Association have no interest in what benefits the consumer. They only have an interest in what benefits their members. And the people that run these associations have an interest in keeping their high-paying, cushy jobs. Charities and foundations. These organizations sound great, but have you met the people who run them? The officers and directors of most charities and foundations have huge salaries and enormous expense accounts. They fly first class and sometimes on private jets. They stay in the most expensive hotels and eat in the finest restaurants with all your donations. Some foundations and charities have been found to spend over 40% of all their donations on administration costs. Think about it. If a foundation used the money it received to cure disease, there would be no need for the foundation, and the fat cats would lose their prestigious jobs and all the perks that go along with them. Yes, it's always about the money. But consider, the second most powerful motivator for people is the combination of power and prestige. Think about it. Think about that when you ask yourself, why are natural cures being hidden from me? Why are natural cures being hidden from me? Consider this. The Jerry Lewis Telethon has raised over $1 billion for muscular dystrophy, yet more people have muscular dystrophy today than ever before. Lobbyists. This is the hidden secret group of people in Washington that most of you have no idea even exists. These people on average make between $300,000 to $400,000 a year, plus hundreds of thousands more in perks. Their job is simply to walk up to a congressman or a senator and try to persuade them to a certain line of thinking or to pass a certain piece of legislation or vote a certain way. Now, how do they do that? Well, the lobbyists can walk up to the member of Congress and say, please vote a certain way on this bill and I will give you $200,000. That would be called a bribe. But what the lobbyists can do is say, do you have a son or daughter, Mr. Congressman? You do? Fantastic. I know your son or daughter has absolutely no experience whatsoever, but we would like to give your son or daughter a job for $200,000 a year. And the best part is they don't even have to show up for work. Oh, by the way, Mr. Congressman, can you please vote a certain way on this particular piece of legislation which helps who I represent? Lobbyists also bribe members of Congress, although Congress has passed laws that make them legally not a bribe by doing other things. Lobbyists make huge donations to a congressman's favorite charity or school or hire companies that the congressman is affiliated with in some way. Folks, that's what is happening in Washington. Lobbyists absolutely bribe and pay off congressmen. But according to the law, it is not called a bribe or payoff. It is technically legal. And who makes the laws? The congressman. Pretty interesting, isn't it? They make a law that makes sure that what they do is legal. Can you begin to see why I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore? Government agencies. Primarily the Food and Drug Administration and the Federal Trade Commission. Isn't it surprising that it's the Food and Drug Administration? Why not two separate agencies? This organization is one of the most powerful organizations in the country. They use Gestapo-like tactics to put natural cures out of business. They act as judge, jury, and executioner. They raid companies unannounced to seize products such as bread, herbal remedies, vitamins and minerals, computers, files, research data, and equipment. They conduct these raids with armed agents with guns drawn. They seize harmless products, paper, documents, and computers like the Gestapo did in Nazi Germany, without provocation, with no customer or consumer complaints, and without warning. There have been several outstanding books and articles written about how the FDA operates, but in the end, The FDA is the agency that approved drugs. And when a company gets a drug approved, it's like putting billions of dollars in profits in the bank. So companies will do anything to get the FDA commissioners, 12 of them. It's interesting to note that, okay, so they have to get the FDA to do anything to approve drugs. It's interesting to note that of the last 20 FDA commissioners, 12 of them went to work directly for the drug industry upon leaving the FDA and were paid millions of dollars. Let's be honest, that's a payoff. It should be illegal. It's a conflict of interest and it's wrong. More on the FDA in a later chapter. Okay, now let's go through each of these organizations, and let me show you that it's all about the money. The pharmaceutical industry. Virtually every pharmaceutical company is a publicly traded company, which means that the officers and directors have a legal responsibility to increase shareholder value. That means that the officers and directors of virtually every pharmaceutical company have a legal responsibility to increase profits. The only way that they can increase profits is to sell more of what they sell and produce those products at a lower cost. Drug companies, therefore, have one goal, and that is to sell more drugs and produce those drugs at the cheapest possible cost. Think about that. A drug company's objective is not to cure a disease. A drug company's goal is to sell more drugs. You are the customer. They want you to use more drugs every single year. They want to produce those drugs at the lowest possible cost, and they want to do whatever they can to make sure that they can sell those drugs at the highest possible price. That's why there is a huge debate about people buying pharmaceutical drugs from other countries. The FDA makes up this silly excuse that a country like Canada doesn't produce drugs under the same safe guidelines as America. How arrogant. The fact is that American pharmaceutical companies want a monopoly. They don't want anybody competing with their sales. Therefore, they have managed to coax the federal government into forbidding any American to purchase a pharmaceutical drug outside of America. They are, in effect, stopping free trade and stopping competition, which would result in lower prices. Why is the FDA doing that? As I mentioned to you before, the drug industry gives millions of dollars to the commissioners when they leave the FDA. It's a payoff. Remember, drug companies do not want people to get well. A drug company's goal is not to cure disease. If everyone in the world was healthy, the drug companies would be out of business. A drug company only wants to sell you more drugs. So here is how the cycle works. The drug industry gives billions of dollars to medical schools. Why? So their drugs can be put in the textbooks and doctors are taught to prescribe certain pharmaceutical drugs, thus guaranteeing sales of these drugs by the pharmaceutical company. Remember, in medical school, doctors are taught two things: to prescribe drugs and to cut out parts of a person's anatomy, which is surgery. When a doctor comes out of medical school, most people don't know what the pharmaceutical industry. When a doctor comes out of medical school, most people don't know that the pharmaceutical industry then pays the doctor to prescribe certain drugs. Often this is done through incentives. For example, if a doctor prescribes a certain drug to 10 patients, he is given thousands of dollars in cash from the pharmaceutical company. Drug companies routinely give doctors all expense-paid trips to medical conferences around the world. These medical conferences are really sales presentations by the drug companies, teaching the doctor about drugs and how to prescribe them and giving financial incentives to prescribe those drugs. They are disguised as medical conferences. They are not. The experts at these medical conferences are compensated by the drug company, by the drug industry. So doctors are trained in medical school to prescribe drugs and are given incentives and additional training throughout their medical career directly by the drug industry to prescribe more drugs. Research. In order for a drug company to get a drug patented and approved by the FDA, it costs approximately $800 million in research and testing. Where does that $800 million go? Well, let's just follow the money trail. Remember, it's always about the money. The companies that are approved by the FDA to do certain research, interestingly enough, are publicly traded companies. Guess who owns the stock in these publicly traded companies? Would it surprise you to know that politicians and members of the FDA own stock in those companies? It would surprise me. Would it also surprise you that the people that work for those research companies are friends and relatives of politicians and members of the FDA? It wouldn't surprise me. Once a drug is approved and the pharmaceutical company has the patent, it becomes the only company that can sell that drug. Getting a patented drug is an automatic $1 billion in the bank. This is why you will never see a pharmaceutical company promoting a natural cure. Natural cures cannot be patented. You can only make profits if you have a patented drug. There are no large profits in selling a natural cure that can't be patented. When you have a patented product, you are the only company that can sell it. You have no competition. You can sell it for an outrageously high price, and the profits are guaranteed. If you are selling a non-patented natural product, 100 other companies could also sell the same product. You have no monopoly. Because of the competition, the prices will come down and the profits become incredibly small. This is why the drug industry will only promote patented drugs because that's where their profits are. This is also why the drug companies gave tens of millions of dollars to lobbyists to get the FDA to make a new law. Listen to this very carefully. The FDA has the power to make laws and enforce them. It can make laws without congressional approval or debate. In order to protect the profits of the drug industry, the FDA passed the most incredibly insane law of all time. The FDA has now made as law the following statement: only a drug can cure, prevent, or treat disease. This is insane. Think about the ramifications. The FDA has now guaranteed and protected the profits of the drug companies. Only a patented drug, according to the FDA, can treat, prevent, or cure a disease. First off, we all know that that's a flat out untrue. The disease scurvy, for example, which is simply a vitamin C deficiency, is treated, prevented, and cured by eating citrus fruit. According to the FDA's law, however, if you were to hold up an orange and say this orange is a cure for the disease scurvy, you would go to jail for selling a drug without a license. According to the FDA, as soon as you made a disease claim in reference to taking an orange, the orange no longer is an orange, but magically became a drug, according to the FDA. And since that drug has not been patented or approved by the FDA, you are selling a drug without a license, which is a criminal offense. You go to jail. The drug is obviously not a drug, it's an orange. This is how the FDA works to protect the profits of the pharmaceutical company and suppress and hide information about natural cures. So how do the drug companies get you to buy their drugs? Years ago, the drug companies had to basically make sure that you were sick and had a problem that the drug addressed. Second, they had to make sure that the doctors prescribed their particular drug. That still goes on. The pharmaceutical companies give huge cash incentives and information to the doctors about the drugs they make to ensure that the doctors who are in fact illegal drug pushers get their drugs to you via prescription. Remember, the pharmaceutical companies have ensured that you are sick. How do they do that? This is going to blow your mind, but it's true. One of the major reasons why there is so much sickness and disease is because of the poisons you are putting in your body. The number one poison you are putting in your body consists of prescription and non-prescription drugs. That's right. The prescription and non-prescription drugs you are taking to eliminate your symptoms are, in fact, one of the major reasons that you are getting sick. The pharmaceutical companies know that all drugs have side effects. This is the dirty little secret that the pharmaceutical companies don't want you to know. Just as the tobacco industry knew that smoking cigarettes were addictive and could cause lung cancer, yet lied for decades about this fact. The pharmaceutical industry today knows that all drugs have negative side effects and can cause further illness in the body. The pharmaceutical industry knows that the drugs people are taking are actually causing or contributing to the increases in cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and dozens of other diseases. Why is the drug industry keeping this information a secret? Mainly because it's profitable. It's just like the tobacco industry. Look at the cycle. You start taking a drug to handle a certain symptom that you have. A few months later, you develop another medical condition. This new medical condition, unknown to you, was actually caused by the first drug you were taking. The drug seems to work. Your condition gets better. A few months later, you develop a new series of medical problems. Unknown to you was the fact that these new medical problems were actually caused by the last drug you were taking. You are given more drugs for this newest medical condition. Can you see how profitable this is for the drug industry? The drug companies are doing this on purpose. They're making drugs that address one set of symptoms, but they know that if you use these drugs over a period of time, they can cause a second set of medical problems. The drug companies will then produce a drug to solve those new medical problems caused by taking their first drug. This guarantees additional drug sales and profits for the drug companies. How is this happening? Keep in mind, virtually all drug research is funded by the pharmaceutical industry. In virtually every study, drugs are found to be safe and effective. However, history has proved that this is not true. Think of all the drugs that were proven to be totally safe and effective and were approved by the FDA. Then, years later, these same drugs were approved to be incredibly dangerous and to cause all types of severe medical conditions, including death. These safe and effective drugs were found to kill so many people that the FDA finally had to take them off the market. Interestingly enough, they were only taken off the market after the drug companies made millions of dollars in profits. Advertising. The drug industry is doing something today that it has never done before in history. Advertising its drugs directly to the consumer. This is absolutely unbelievable. Right now, close to 2/3 of all advertising in America is for drugs. It's estimated that well in excess of $10 billion a year is spent on advertising by the pharmaceutical industry. They are advertising drugs directly to you and me, the consumer. In many cases, these drug ads don't even tell you what the damn drug is for. They just have some celebrity. They pay huge amounts of money to, telling you about how their life is so much better because they take this particular drug. The ads show all these beautiful, happy, and give you all these beautiful, happy people and give you the impression that they are all taking this wonderful drug and that their lives are so much better. What you don't know is that virtually every single person you see in these ads have been meticulously selected by some of the top advertising minds in the world to evoke certain emotions in you. They are paid actors. Most do not use the drug they are promoting. When you see people dressed as doctors, policemen, judges, and etc., you are being deceived. Even when known figures and famous actors publicly endorse a drug or foundation, usually funded by pharmaceutical companies, ostensibly because they or a close friend or relative have suffered with a particular disease, they are being paid enormous sums to do so. These are actors. These ads are not truthful. Millions of dollars are spent using technology pioneered by the CIA and KGB to produce advertising that will motivate you to not only want their drug, but feel you need their drug. These ads produced by the pharmaceutical industry are the most sophisticated, well thought out, brainwashing and manipulative ads campaigns ever launched on the American public. This advertising is trying to brainwash us into thinking that our life will be better in every way as long as we continue to take more and more drugs. This is absolutely outrageous. Doesn't it drive you crazy when you see all of these drug ads in newspapers, magazines, and televisions? The amount of drug advertising is at an all-time high and continues to increase. When you listen to these ads, doesn't it make you smile or laugh when they start rattling off about all the side effects of the drugs? However, the marketing techniques are so sophisticated that the drug ads are incredibly effective. The Food and Drug Administration, the Federal Trade Commission, and the pharmaceutical industry have an unholy alliance. The regulating government bodies should be governing and regulating and protecting consumers from the drug companies' insatiable desire to make more profits. The problem is that they work together to increase profits and power. A law was passed in Congress with virtually no debate at all, which increased the FDA's dependence on large drug companies for its funding. You are reading this right. The FDA gets funding directly from the drug industry. It is a law that was passed in 1992 that was intended to speed up approval for new AIDS medications. But what it actually did was get the drug companies to pay for the FDA's new employees and additional funding requirements. According to an article in the Washington Post, the program was developed between the pharmaceutical industry and the FDA in secret meetings. It was not debated in Congress. There was no vote. It was a secret, private negotiation between the drug industry and the FDA, and went directly to the Post and went directly to the General Accounting Office for review. According to the Washington Post, over 500 new employees to be sent to the FDA centers that actually review new proposed drugs will be paid for the pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies themselves. There are over 1,500 people that work for the FDA. who are paid by the funding of the drug industry. That means over 55% of the FDA staff directly involved in the reviewing of new drug applications is in effect on the payroll of the drug industry. That's over $1.2 billion that the FDA is getting directly from the drug industry. Just to point out how crooked these people are, over the last 10 years, the FDA has approved over 9 specific drugs that have been proven to have deadly side effects. The Journal of the American Medical Association estimates that over 125,000 Americans die each year from side effects of FDA-approved drugs. That's iatrogenics. So how do the FDA, FTC, and the drug industry work together promoting drugs and surgery and suppressing natural cures? Criminologist Elaine Foer did a thorough investigation on the FDA and found that the FDA invests the majority of its time protecting the profits of the pharmaceutical industry. The FDA suppresses the truth about natural cures and focuses on shutting down companies that sell natural remedies for common diseases. Her book, Innocent Casualties, the FDA's War Against Humanity, documents how the FDA specifically goes after companies that offer natural cures for diseases that make the most money for the pharmaceutical industry. Since cancer, AIDS, heart disease, and diabetes are so profitable for the drug companies, anyone promoting a natural cure for these illnesses will be attacked by the FDA. Drug companies also get us to use drugs through the use of the media. This is one of the scariest things I want to talk about. The drug industry, the FTC, and FDA produce press releases, news, if you will, on new super wonder drugs. At the same time, they spread negative news on natural alternatives. The industry spends enormous amounts of money with public relation firms to get news organizations on television, radio, newspapers, and magazines to do positive stories on their drugs. You'll notice when you're watching the news that many times there is a medical expert on who says something about a new drug. This medical expert never says it's his opinion. There is never an alternative viewpoint presented. The medical expert always gives the pro-drug side, and it's presented as a news story. The fact is, it is not news at all. The medical experts are in many cases spokespeople for the drug companies. These medical experts are being paid huge amounts of money to say all these wonderful things about drugs. Where is the full disclosure? When the news organization brings out their medical expert, they never say, by the way, our medical expert is being paid huge amounts of money to come on our show and say wonderful things about this drug. They are put on the news without any research whatsoever done by the news organization about whether the information itself being presented is factual, fair, balanced, or honest. Everyone seems to forget that a new wonder drug makes billions of dollars in profits. And everyone seems to forget that drug companies are publicly traded companies, and the people that own the stock in these companies have a major incentive for the drug company to sell more drugs. So the real question is, who owns the stock in these drug companies? Would it surprise you that many members of the FDA and FTC own stock in the drug companies? We don't stand a chance if we don't get educated. Would it surprise you that many members of Congress own stock in drug companies? Would it surprise you that members of the news media that are supposed to be impartially presenting news on stock in drug companies? And the corporations that own television networks, radio networks, newspapers, and magazines all have financial ties to the pharmaceutical industry and all have incentives for the drug industry to sell more drugs. That's one of the reasons why you hear so much about drugs on the news and read so many positive articles about drugs in magazines and newspapers. These organizations get financial benefit from the drugs that are sold. Additionally, most news organizations do not research the accuracy and truthfulness of information when presenting news about drugs. When they get a press release from the pharmaceutical industry, it is read and presented as news without question. The pharmaceutical industry has an automatic outlet to get billions of dollars in free advertising, which is being disguised as news. Doesn't it surprise you that the only medical experts on the news giving any information about health, illness, disease, or sickness are all medical doctors? Doesn't it surprise you that you virtually never hear any positive news at all about any herbal remedy, a natural remedy, or homeopathic remedy? Could it be that there is no profit in those remedies? Remember, natural remedies cannot be patented. As I mentioned previously, the unholy alliance between the FDA, the FTC, and the drug industry created the outrageous and totally irresponsible regulation that only a drug can cure, prevent, or treat a disease. Remember that the FDA has the ability to enforce this law. Anyone making a claim that anything other than a drug can cure, prevent, or treat a disease is breaking the law and is subject to criminal prosecution. The FDA has set a law. The FDA has set as law that there is not and never will be a natural remedy that can cure or prevent or treat a disease. Because if a natural remedy did, then it has to be classified as a drug. And once it's classified as a drug, it has to go through $800 million worth of testing that the FDA requires to be approved as a new drug. This cannot be done. Why? Because a natural remedy cannot be patented, and there is no company that can spend $800 million to get a natural remedy approved as a drug, because it will not own a patent for that new drug and therefore cannot make that money back plus tenfold profits. Natural remedies cannot be patented. Therefore, they cannot go through the testing that the FDA requires. This is why the FDA and drug companies love this system. It prevents any natural remedy from being touted as a cure or prevention of disease, when in fact many of them are. The FDA has colluded with the drug industry and given the drug industry a monopoly. Think about it. The FDA states that only a drug can cure or prevent a disease. Absolutely nothing else can. How insane is that? To make matters worse, what the pharmaceutical industry and the FDA have done now is decided to classify more and more things as diseases. Once upon a time, you used to get heartburn. Now it's called acid reflux disease. Once upon a time, people used to be shy. Now it's classified as social anxiety disorder, which is a disease. Kids who are eating too much sugar or are a little too rambunctious are now classified as having attention deficit disorder, which is a disease. If a woman has a low sexual desire, it is now classified as a disease. An alcoholic is no longer an alcoholic. He now has the disease of alcoholism. A person who is overweight is no longer overweight. They now have the disease of obesity. A male who cannot get an erection is said to have a disease. The reason more and more things are being classified as diseases is once it's classified as a disease, legally there can be no natural, inexpensive remedy that can cure or prevent it. The FDA says only a drug can do that. The FDA has the final word on what is a disease. Once the FDA has decided with final authority that something is a disease, any company making a claim that all natural product could possibly cure or prevent that disease can be legally entered by the FDA unannounced with federal agents, guns drawn, and seize the natural product. The FDA can then shut that business down and put the people who are in charge of that business in jail for practicing medicine without a license or selling drugs without a license, even though they are not selling drugs at all. They could be selling something as benign as bread. This actually happened back in the 70s when a gentleman named Ben Suarez sold bread that had a high fiber content. It was an all-natural bread that was high in fiber. He stated that eating a high-fiber diet could potentially lower the risk of certain cancers. At the time, that statement was not proven, but because he made that statement, he was now, according to the FDA, selling a drug without a license. He wasn't selling a drug, he was selling bread. The FDA came in, seized the bread, and destroyed it. It was enough bread to feed 1 million homeless people. He offered to give the bread away to homeless people. The FDA said no, and the bread was destroyed. How sick. And why was it destroyed? Because he was selling an all-natural product that was potentially tapping into the profits of the most powerful, profitable industries in the world. It's all about the money. Please read this incredible story about the no hunger bread that was and is one of the greatest weight loss miracles of all time, and how the FDA tried to destroy this man's business and life to protect the profits of the drug industry. The entire story is printed here as an Appendix B. Websites. The pharmaceutical industry is doing a brilliant job producing all kinds of informational websites, which appear to be consumer-oriented, unbiased websites, which give information to consumers about various illnesses, diseases, and cures. But the fact is, these are not unbiased websites. It's a trick. It's a scam. These websites are paid for and put out by the drug industry. They are made to look and appear as if they are unbiased and are there to give information to the consumer and to protect the consumer. The fact of the matter is that they are nothing more than websites owned directly or indirectly by the pharmaceutical companies to sell you more drugs. Ooh, this is a long chapter here. Ooh. We're going to have to break these down into part 1, part 2. It is important to know that the pharmaceutical industry is committed to wiping out non-patentable all-natural cures for disease. The pharmaceutical industry is spending hundreds of millions of dollars to try to get you to believe that drugs are safe and effective, and all-natural cures are ineffective and dangerous. The exact opposite is true. Drugs are all dangerous and cause disease, and all the current research shows that drugs are generally ineffective. Drugs do not cure any disease. The fact is becoming more and more clear. Drugs, in fact, cause disease. All natural remedies are, in fact, extremely safe with virtually no side effects, and all natural remedies are incredibly effective. Technically speaking, all natural remedies do not cure disease because only the body can cure itself. All natural remedies help the body cure itself. With this said, I want to emphasize that virtually every consumer advocacy website relating to health and every watchdog group or website relating to health and every consumer information website relating to health is, in fact, a front for the pharmaceutical industry. We're going to have to cut this short. We're getting up to 50 minutes. So this is part 1 of chapter for. I hope you guys are really understanding this and start studying natural cures. Every family should have somebody in it who understands about natural cures.